I've always taught this to my students, or said this to my students, that ideas are very, very fleeting things. And you are not going to be able to convert an idea into a story until you are able to reduce it to what I call a storyline. There are people who would write and fall in love with what they have written. You humble yourself as a writer. Okay, my dear viewer, I have mentioned, I believe, a number of times in the past. I want to introduce you, perhaps this time in practical terms, or with the picture of the book on creative writing that I have mentioned earlier. I have authored a book on creative writing, or entitled Creative Writing, a Manual for Writers. And I think it's important that you share in my thoughts and experience that I've shared in the book. Let me say that you may have come across a number of creative writing textbooks, but what I've done is to look at it from a purely experiential and Nigerian perspective. Why? Because most of the time that I take books that are written to teach us, both in writing and in films and other things, there is always that assumption that the person going into the book already has some knowledge of what they want to learn. And I think that there are quite a number of people. I'm not saying that you have not had an experience in writing or you've not read other books, but I'm trying to bring a book down to the level of everybody that might want to write. Even if you have not tried your hands of writing before, I think that this book will help you. That it will help you to learn the tips that even of thinking of, what and what you can expect, of yourself if you want to become a creative writer. And how can you develop those habits or attributes that can help you to become a writer? I started from there, and then I took the reader through steps, step by step of writing, how to generate ideas. We have always known that stories come from ideas. Many people do not know how to handle ideas. I've always taught this to my students, or said this to my students, that ideas are very, very fleeting things, and you are not going to be able to convert an idea into a story until you are able to reduce it to what I call a storyline. For example, these are pieces of advice I give or instructions I give with how to, go about that. And also to advise people who are into writing or who have started to learn how to write, to make you realize that, look, it is important that you humble yourself as a writer. There are people who would write and fall in love with what they have written, and they would think that they have written the best that the world can get. Now, when you do that, I'm not saying you may not have written the best stuff, but please, before you take it to the printer or to a publisher, why not share? In fact, from the idea level, if you can, share with people, okay? Especially experienced people. But even if you don't do that, develop the idea, reduce it to a story, a storyline, or what I define as story. So from idea, you get story, but story in this sense is not the full story. Story in this sense is what you can tell somebody in a minute, okay, or two, which you will now expand when you develop your plot, when it becomes a full-length story. More often than not, writers do experience what is called the writer's block. And you start a story and you might spend a whole year. It has happened to me too. I'm not saying that I'm immune to it or that because I have had some degree of experience that I don't experience that. But then, of course, there are games that we can play to get through all of that block. And I have shared quite a number of those games and some other tricks to play, to get around the writer's block so that you do not abandon your story halfway. You can also check in the previous videos because there are videos that I have discussed the games, for example. In reality, you will be able to get everything more in the book than in the video. The videos are usually just a summary of some, not even all. So go to the book itself. At some other time, I will actually go through the book bit by bit and share with you the details of what is in the text, so that. But I advise you to get it, on your own and see what you can benefit from that text. I think I did give some numbers in the past, but maybe my number or some other contact numbers can be placed for you to be able to get in touch and see how you can get a copy. Thank you.